Falgren Summerfall knew what he was facing as soon as he heard the grunting. It had been years since he had encountered the beasts of chaos, but the howls and screams the foul creatures make have stuck with him since he was a child. It appears that they were making their way south, probably coming to pillage and destroy what the Skaven had left, and looking to make the forest a shorter route. He moved his rangers into their hidden positions deep within the poison thickets, waiting for the beastmen to come by. Meanwhile, Alenthea Shadowdawn had other thoughts of the beast. She knew the shamans carried items of chaos, items she could use to increase her power and tap more into the magics of shadow. She moved her unit into position, as her commander ordered, but the protection of the forest was secondary to her own desires. She saw Falgren move from his hidden point and fire the first shot at the Beastman commander, and the assault began. Alright, so we have a very basic battle of the Beastmen and the Wood Elves. This was a challenge from the Wood Elves to the Beastmen, and no additional quests are being laid down, so this is going to be a straight battle line scenario. So the deployment starts out with a group of what looks to be 10 Glade Guard, the archer ones. With them is Alenthea, the Shadow Mage. She's level 2. And this is the forest that the Wood Elves got to put down. Now, normally they can choose what forest that is, but we gave Skip the option to have it be a mysterious forest and roll randomly, and if that was the case, then he could loot it for our campaign just like a normal forest. Then over here in another normal forest is, even though these look like spearmen, they are actually a unit of the Wildwood Rangers that Skip is testing out. And with them is Falgren Summerfall, his general. Notice again, just like with the Dark Elves, Skip is taking a gamble of not using a battle standard bearer, so that's pretty freaking intense. He also has a unit of, I think this is 8 scouts. Deepwood Scouts, I think is what they're called. Over here on the other side of the river. And here on the work table being glued together are 10 Glade Riders who are waiting to ambush in. I know he's using the Sisters models. That's just because Skip didn't bring his normal cavalry models, I guess by mistake, and so he's using these, which were here because Alicia was just finishing them up. So they're getting glued together and will be coming in as ambushers. And for the Beastmen, we have a unit of 3 Minotaurs with extra hand weapons, a unit of 30 Gore with Brejik, the level 2 Shaman of the Wild, and a non-named character BSB in there. Then he has a unit of, looks like 15 Bestigors and 5 Ungor Raiders. So pretty standard. The thing to pay attention to is the hill in the middle of the board is a scree slope, so might make combat a little difficult. And here's just a better picture of the Ungor Raiders. They're right up against the river, and if you recall from the Elf deployment, the Elf's scouts are just to the bottom right of this picture, easily within shooting range of those Ungors. And so the game starts off with the pre-game shot of the Glade Captain at Brejik, and he succeeds and takes a wound. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think Brejik is actually in with the Bestigors. But yeah, he takes a wound from the Strength 3 shot that goes off at the beginning of the turn, which is particularly dangerous when you consider we're only playing with heroes, so there's only one more wound left on the Beastman General. So over here, the Wildwood Rangers just move up to the edge of the forest. They don't want to come out of it yet, but he's definitely being very aggressive with them. And I think in part because he hasn't seen what they can do yet. So we're all kind of interested to see what happens there. And since the random forest turned out to be the one that beat you up after the movement phase, the archers abandon that and come into this other forest. I also believe during this turn the Wildwood Rangers loot this forest for money. Then on the far side over here, the scouts move up to the water but do not enter it as of yet. And yes, the Wildwood Rangers did search this forest for gold, and as the dice show, have managed to find 12 gold pieces, which automatically get added to their total because there is a named character in that unit. I don't recall Magic doing anything, so we go straight into shooting, and it starts off with those scouts completely annihilating the Ungor Raider unit, but the Bestigors aren't going to panic just from that, and nobody flees. Then on this side, the Glade Guard open up on the Minotaurs and end up sneaking one wound through. So then we go into Beastmen turn 1, and easily enough the Beastmen just rush forward because they realize they need to get into somebody before they are all shot to death. During the Beastmen magic phase, Brejik uses Vile Tide on the archers and kills 2 of them. Then we go into Wood Elves turn 2, and the Wildwood Rangers fail a charge on the Minotaurs and come staggering out of the forest. I know the Wood Elf player is very anxious to see what they could do. I still probably would have held back, as the Wood Elves are better in the forest, but you got to give him points for aggression. And the Glade Riders come onto the board and move themselves basically behind the lines so they can start being nuisances. Then the Scouts move into the water, discovering that it is a river of light, and they end up getting Initiative 10, Weapon Skill 10. I also think they use this turn to loot the water as well. Then during Magic phase, the Alenthea gets off Melkoff's big version on this unit, but only ends up dropping all of their stats by 1 point. So may end up helpful, but certainly probably not the boost that the Wood Elves were looking for. And then the shooting starts, and please forgive me for not knowing who shot what, because this game was about a week ago and it's been a long weekend. So he's now focusing on the Gore unit, and it looks like he kills 2 in the first barrage, and then 2 more in the second barrage. So with nothing else, we go into Beastmen turn 2. And the Beastmen try to charge with the Gore herd and fail by 1. So the Melkoffs kept that the Gore herd out of the flank of the Rangers and forced the Minotaurs to have to go into them face to face alone. So Melkoffs was actually the perfect spell to have thrown last turn. It definitely is going to help out here. Over here, the Bestigor with the character in it are moving around the other side of the hill. He's basically wanting to take out those archers with magic, so he's not committing the Bestigors into anything yet and is trying to Vile Tide them to death every turn. And so magic was a bust, so we go into combat, and holy crap. The Minotaurs do kill 3 elves on impacts, but then these Rangers just absolutely tear them apart. The Minotaurs are killed to a man before they have the chance to swing in combat. And that was huge. And after doing so, the Wildwood Rangers just turn and look at the Gore herd and say, "Come get some." Now, I'm not sure how that's going to go, because, I mean, yeah, they've still got good strength, and they're fast as freaks, but not getting any additional attacks because there's nothing in that Gore herd that's going to cause fear could be problematic. But he had to turn and face because it wasn't like he was going to want to take that in the flank anyway. So, and then we go to Wood Elf turn, where they just decide to throw all caution to the wind. Wildwood Rangers slam the Gore herd in the front. The Glade Riders slam the Gore herd in the back, and they've got them in a nasty pincer move right now. It's going to be a lot of pain going on, and at this point, money, in my opinion, is even on who's going to win it. So then back here, the Glade Rider or the Glade Guard turn, or the shooters, whatever. I'm so unfamiliar with the Wood Elves. I very much apologize for that. But these archers turn to start putting pot shots into the Bestigor. Then way in the back, the scouts are still trying to run up and be useful for something. Then during Magic phase, the Withering goes off on the Gore herd and reduces Looks like they're reducing their toughness by 2. So those are toughness 2 gore up against up against strength, 4 on the charge Glade Riders with their spears and 5 from the Wildwood Rangers. Things just got a little less even. And then during shooting, archers take shots at the Bestigor and kill off 2 of them. And then the scouts from the back open up and kill, I think it's 3 more. So he's lost 5 Bestigors just this turn. And then combat happens, and it is a bad day to be a Bestigor. The BSB character in there did not do very well. He and the Wood Elf general just kind of flailed at each other. But then the Wood Elves just absolutely ate them up. I think there was a little over a rank of the Beastmen left when they got to swing, and they did some good damage, but it wasn't enough, and they broke and were run down. So then we go to Beastman turn. The Bestigors get up real close to these archers. Before he declares a charge, he wants to get them close enough where he can't stand and shoot, and where he can pretty much guarantee the charge. At this point, the Beastmen are losing a little bit of hope of victory, but at this point they're getting kind of spiteful and are going on a character assassination mission against that mage. So we go into, that was all for Beastman turn, so we go into Wood Elf turn, and the units about face and come back to rescue the archers from the predations of the Beastmen. And Alenthea attempts to Melkoff's again, succeeds in getting it off, but again is only dropping everything by 1, so it remains to be seen how effective that's going to be in stopping them. And then some shooting goes off and a few more Bestigor die. Then it goes to Beastman turn, and the Bestigors make it into combat against the archers. I figure these archers might kill a few Bestigor, but that unit is going down bad. And in combat, that proves to be the case. It looks like 2 or 3 more Beastmen are killed. The entire unit of archers was slain, including Alenthea, the Shadow Wizardess. So, come the end of the game, we will have to roll and see if her death in combat was permanent. Then we go into Wood Elf turn, and these Glade Riders, being the only ones really having a chance, go ahead and charge and land a charge in the rear of the Bestigor unit. Time for cleanup at this point. And the scouts run into this other forest that's going to try and beat them to death, because it hadn't been looted yet. So he runs over there to loot them and gets a few more gold out of it. And he just moves up the Wildwood Rangers. I'm not entirely sure why, but he's getting them close. So combat goes badly for the Beastmen. They lose a couple. But they do manage to kill a couple of the Glade Riders. But the static combat res is what gets them. They break and run to within centimeters of the edge of the board. Then on Beastman turn 6, they fail to rally and run right off the board. The vile woodland elves. They had halted Brejik's advance, and the shaman had let it be known to those around him. The Bestigor that had survived the battle soon wished they had not. But that would be a tale for another time. Even with all that the brave shaman had taken something of the elves with him, their sorceress. The elves had overlooked Brejik as one of the dead, a simple oversight, since the great Brejik, to the unwise, looked like the rest of the dead and wounded, giving him ample time to grab the elf maiden and scurry off into the depths of the uncharted woods. Once he had arrived at the Beastman camp with the elf, the other beasts quickly swarmed around the pair, their howls and brays loud enough to frighten even the most disciplined. However, before the maddened beasts could act, they were cowed by Brejik. "Back now! I have brought a guest. Now go make my meal tent ready. We would be poor hosts of the old fathers to not offer refreshments while we await her rescue." The beasts quickly scattered, a few whose skin seemed to pulse with pus and burst with boils, bolted to ready his dining tent. Pestigores were always ready to please the old fathers, though Brejik had thought it odd that they called Nurgle grandfather. They were all old fathers, none more than the next. Either way, they would be awaiting the arrival of the Wood Elves, and Brejik would make sure the sorceress came to an understanding about the woods, that they belonged to the Beastmen, not the Elves. So, by the end of the game, the Wood Elves had acquired 32 gold pieces. However, during the rolling at the end of the game, Alenthea Shadowdawn, the mage of the Wood Elves, was killed. But the Beastmen chose to use their plot coin to capture her instead. So right now the Wood Elves are unable to use any mages from here out until they either take a quest to gain a new and different mage or rescue Alenthea from the Beastmen in another battle. Further than that, the end game for having won, the Glade Riders from this army have become a regiment of renown known as the Arrows of Ainth. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But they gained the special ability Devastating Charge, which, if they perform anything like they did here from here on out, that could be very, very strong. And for the Beastmen, they did not manage to claim any gold pieces, and the Bestigors deserted. So for the next game the Beastmen play in, they will be unable to use any Bestigors. So, all in all, I thought this was a good game. It was fun to see the Wood Elves come out for the first time, and it was good to see Skip get a win this early in the campaign. Though I think with the Beastmen choosing to use their coin to capture his mage, the Wood Elves might be in for a little bit of an uphill struggle. On the plus side, they do have access to the Sisters of the Thorn, so he's not completely without magic. He's probably in a better state for that to happen than any of my armies, that's for sure. But all in all, it was a lot of fun. I think Michael is still getting used to the idea of having to claim land and loot things, because he hasn't, in either of the armies he's played, has not managed to do so yet. So we'll see how that works for him as things progress. But all in all, it was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this one. As always, if you have comments or questions, leave them below. And I do apologize that I don't know the Wood Elves as well as I should. I've actually not played them yet. Hoping to play them this coming week, and maybe I'll start learning the units so these battle reports won't seem quite so clunky. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.